Hello and welcome. Today, we're going to tell a single, sprawling story that spans 3 chapters and decades of one family's history. It's a narrative that weaves together the most profound test of faith, the quiet sorrow of loss, and the promise of a new generation. This is the story of Abraham and his son, Isaac, from the moments that would define their legacy forever. The story begins with a command so shocking, it has echoed through millennia. After years of waiting, of a promise delayed, Abraham finally had his son, Isaac. The boy was the child of God's promise, a miracle born to Abraham and Sarah in their old age. He was the future. Then, one day, God spoke to Abraham. He didn't ask for a test of strength or a difficult journey. He asked for a sacrifice. Abraham told his servants to stay behind, and he and Isaac continued alone. They walked side by side, father and son, with the wood for the sacrifice on Isaac's back. And it was Isaac, with the innocence and trust of a son, who broke the silence. He asked, "Father, we have the fire and the wood, but where is the lamb for the burnt offering?" Abraham, his heart no doubt breaking, replied with a statement that has become a testament to faith itself. He said, "God himself will provide the lamb for the burnt offering, my son." With those words, they continued their walk to the summit. When they arrived at the top, they built an altar. Abraham then bound his son, Isaac, and laid him on the altar on top of the wood. The boy was a miracle, the heir to God's promise, and yet he trusted his father completely. Abraham raised the knife, his hand ready to obey the terrible command. But just as he was about to strike, the voice of the angel of the Lord called to him from heaven, "Abraham, Abraham, do not lay a hand on the boy. Do not do anything to him. Now I know that you fear God, because you have not withheld from me your son, your only son." Abraham looked up, and there, caught in a nearby thicket, was a ram. God had provided. A ram instead of a son. Abraham took the ram and sacrificed it as a burnt offering in place of Isaac. He named that place, "The Lord Will Provide." For his obedience, God reaffirmed his covenant with Abraham, promising to bless him and his descendants beyond measure. After this monumental event, life continued. Years passed, and Abraham's joy in his son was eventually met with a profound sorrow. Abraham's beloved wife, Sarah, died at the age of 127. She was his partner, his companion, the mother of his miracle son, and with her passing, Abraham grieved deeply. In that culture, land ownership was essential, particularly for burial. To properly honor his wife, Abraham went to the local people, the Hittites, and asked for a burial site. They recognized his stature and offered him their best burial plots as a gift. But Abraham, with the respect and integrity that defined him, insisted on paying for the land. He wanted to own it outright, to have a legal claim on this small piece of the promised land. So he paid 400 shekels of silver for a field containing a cave, a plot that would become the burial place for his family for generations to come. After securing the land, Abraham laid his wife to rest. It was a quiet, somber moment, a stark contrast to the dramatic events on Mount Moriah, but it was just as important. It was an act of both mourning and hope, a small plot of land legally secured in the land God had promised. With Sarah laid to rest, Abraham, now a very old man, turned his thoughts to his son, Isaac. Isaac, now 40 years old, still mourned for his mother and was not yet married. Abraham, knowing his time was limited, was determined to ensure his family line would continue according to God's plan. He called his most trusted and oldest servant and made him swear a solemn oath. Abraham instructed him, "You are not to get a wife for my son from the women of the Canaanites, among whom I am living. Instead, go to my country and my own relatives and get a wife for my son Isaac." The servant, burdened with this great responsibility, took 10 of Abraham's camels and a caravan full of gifts and set off on a long, arduous journey back to Abraham's homeland, Mesopotamia. After a journey of hundreds of miles, he finally arrived at the city of Nahor. He made the camels kneel down by the well outside the city, at the time of day when women came out to draw water. The servant prayed to God, asking for a sign. He said, "Lord, let the young woman I say to, 'Please let down your jar so I can have a drink,' be the one who says, 'Drink, and I'll water your camels too.' Let her be the one you have chosen for your servant Isaac." Before he had even finished praying, a beautiful young woman named Rebekah, the granddaughter of Abraham's brother, came out with her jar on her shoulder. The servant ran to her and said, "Please give me a little water from your jar." She immediately lowered her jar and replied, "Drink, my lord. I'll even draw water for your camels until they've had enough." She went on to water all 10 camels, a Herculean task that showed her immense kindness and strength. The servant knew this was the sign he had prayed for. Rebekah then took the servant to her family's home. The servant, with great eloquence, explained his master's quest and the divine providence that had led him to Rebekah. Her family, seeing God's hand in it all, agreed. When Rebekah was asked if she would go with the servant, she said simply, and with great faith, "I will go." The servant, along with Rebekah and her companions, then began the long journey back to Isaac. As evening approached, Isaac was out meditating in the field. He looked up and saw the camels in the distance. When Rebekah saw Isaac, she quickly got down from her camel and covered herself with her veil. The servant told Isaac all that had happened. Isaac took Rebekah into his mother Sarah's tent, and she became his wife. The story ends on a beautiful, tender note. Isaac loved her, and with Rebekah, he was comforted after the death of his mother. It's a powerful conclusion, a story that begins with a test of faith and ends with a promise fulfilled and a future secured.